If you're aspiring to be a good artist, but you feel like you're behind or you regret that you didn't start sooner, well then, first of all, you're absolutely not alone. Loads of people feel that way, including myself. Then this video is for you, because we're going to look at the evidence, we're going to think this through logically. Hi, my name's Kenzo, and this is Love Life Drawing. So first we need to define what it means to be good at drawing. And the definition I'm going to use is that you look at a drawing that you've done and you think, hey, that's really, really good. I like that. And you feel proud, and it's what you hoped it would be. With that definition, it's about you and what you want. Because, we're never really going to control what other people think, no matter how much we want to. So learning to draw well, it takes a long time, but not a lifetime. And the easiest evidence to point to for that is those really great artists who are really young. And sometimes it's infuriating to see people who are younger than us and way better than us at drawing. But there's real hope actually, if you look at it in a more positive way, which is that with some practice and some hard work, you can get really good in a relatively short amount of time, which is what they've done. There are plenty of really excellent artists out there who have been drawing properly for less than 5 years. And also when you look at artists that you really like, you got to understand that if you go back in time, they weren't always drawing as amazing as they are now. They've worked hard and made a lot of progress, often in quite a short amount of time. Now you might worry that you needed to have learned as a child or a teenager to become really good, because that's perceived as a really great learning age, right? Athletes usually have to start when they're kids to become world class. So these kinds of ideas are in the back of our minds. It's too late for me because I'm not a kid anymore, so it's just kind of ruled out for me forever. But athletes start when they're kids because of physiology. For the same reason they have to retire from their sport in their 30s or somewhere around there. But a great artist can keep going into old age. Most things are learned just as well by adults as by kids, if not better. But kids do have a couple of advantages learning to draw. One, they have more time to dedicate to it. And two, we actually give them the chance to learn. There isn't this pressure to draw to a certain standard. If a kid does a drawing that looks like a kid's drawing, they're praised for it. And rightly so, because that's how you draw when you're learning. But for some reason, people consider it silly if an adult does a drawing like that, a learning drawing. So we can learn something from that. One, dedicate plenty of time to drawing. And two, relax the expectations we have on each drawing. Here's the greatest example of all for that. So Van Gogh, he did all sorts in his life. He worked in a bookshop, he was a supply teacher for a school, a minister's assistant. When he was 27, his brother encouraged him to take up art in earnest. So his time as an active artist was just the 10 years before he died. And in that time, he drew and painted like a madman. And he became, in my opinion, maybe the greatest artist to ever live. So he started late and he became absolutely amazing in a short period, relatively short period of time. So that's a hell of a trajectory. So you don't need decades and you don't need to be young. So what do you need? Well, the first thing is you need a quantity of practice. And that's just about maths. So let's take someone that's been practicing an hour a week consistently for the last 20 years. That's a long period of time to be practicing every week. But because it's only an hour a week, they've done about 1,000 hours of practice. Another person who practices for 10 hours a week, an hour and a half a day or so, is going to get there in only 2 years. So here's where being a bit older can make things a bit harder. When I was younger, I had so much time. I didn't realize it then, but I had so much time. And now I feel like I have very, very little time and more responsibilities. But I'm drawing now more than ever. So how's that possible? Well, when I was younger, yeah, I had more time, but I also messed around way more than I do now. What I've got now is more discipline and more focus. And then the other thing is I've been able to turn drawing practice into a habit. It's got habit status now. So that's a big deal. If it's on my to-do list as a to-do list item, it might not get done because many of my to-do list items don't get done. But if it's a habit, like eating lunch and taking the dog for a walk and brushing my teeth, these are things I do every day without fail. I don't even need to think about them. Then they get done every single day, and drawing now is one of those things. And the drawing practice needs to be relaxing and fun, which is about my mindset. If it's relaxing and fun, it can take the place of time spent watching TV and stuff like that, because it gives me the same reward. But then the last ingredient is you need your practice to be smart. So rather than just drawing without thinking about it at all, doing the exercises, challenging yourself in the ways that you know you need to is important for practice. And if you want to know what kind of practice is good, then you're in the right place. Subscribe to Love Life Drawing. We have cool videos regularly. If you're going to worry about your medium-term trajectory. So that means a few things. The trajectory part means not how good you are now, but how much you're improving. So you could start late, you might not be good yet, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is what direction your line's going in. If you don't practice, it will definitely not go up. If you practice but only do the things you've always done and stay in your comfort zone, your line is going to be kind of shallow. If you challenge yourself and stay open to learning, even if it means a lot of failed drawings, you'll be on a rocket ship. So in the short term, from practice session to practice session, your skill level is slowly going up. But drawings don't gradually get better drawing by drawing. They go up and down all the time when you're learning, and that means you feel great some sessions and terrible the next session. At least for me, that's how it was. So it was important to let go of the short term and focus on the medium term, comparing myself to 3 months ago, 6 months ago, and so on. It's like how you didn't feel yourself growing as a kid, but somehow you did go from being a newborn baby to fully grown. You might have made a little mark on the door frame to record your height every 6 months or something like that, and that's the only way you can track your progress. Okay guys, I am up late editing this video and I realized that I probably missed the most important point about this question. Is it too late to learn how to draw? And I think the most important point is that this isn't a real question, it's more of a doubt. So anytime someone tries to do something creative, your mind will throw up tons of doubts, and some people call it resistance. There's a resistance in your mind. And I think that this is part of that. Because, you know, it doesn't really matter where you are in life. If you're interested in drawing, you pretty much have to learn how to draw. It's in your eyeballs, that visual interest, you know, the beauty of the world, the visuals of the world are so interesting to you that you don't really have that much of a choice. And you can try to not learn, but you'll always wish that you had, and you'll always probably end up coming back to it, and then maybe quitting again and coming back to it. So there isn't that much point in this question. There is a point in just accepting the reality that unless you have an eyeball transplant, this is something that you have to do, and just get on with it. And so the most important thing, there will always be these doubts, and all you have to do is just keep practicing regardless. And so to that end, how about some more videos. There should be some here or maybe over here. So check those out and see you next time.